Well, it basically means that, David Montgomery's tenure as president is over. He's not going to be involved in the day-to-day baseball operations like he had been in the past as president, where, the GM goes to David and says, hey, we are interested in signing Jonathan Papelbon, and this is the amount of money it's going to cost us, or we're interested in signing Cliffley, this is the amount of money it's going to cost us. David ultimately has to say yes or no, go ahead, spend the money. So he's not going to be involved in baseball decisions anymore. It's going to continue to be Pat Gillick. I don't know for how much longer. He told me yesterday he's willing to stay on as long as ownership wants. I tend to think it might only be through the season or, through the end of the year. I don't think he wants to stay on and do it for a long period of time. But he will remain in charge of the baseball operations side. And much like David was, he is now. So Ruben will go to him and say, hey, we have a trade on the table for player X. What do you think? He says, I like it, let's do it, or no, I don't like it, find something better. So Pat remains in charge, and he's going to be very, very involved, I think a lot more involved than David Montgomery was in how this franchise is going to try to rebuild.
So now, basically, there's a lot of debate now, in the city of whether or not Gillick is, you mentioned, is he here for the long haul? And if he's not, what's next? And if he is he the right guy at 77 years old to lead you back through a rebuild?
How long will he be in this thing? Is he in for the long haul? I don't think he is in for the long haul. I think because of his age, I think he's a transitional guy. Is he able to kind of reconstruct this team? Pat is 77, yes. The guy is still very sharp. He's still very much with it. And the guy's in the Hall of Fame. He's got a ton of credentials. And so I think if you're going to roll the dice on a kind of a transitional type of president, a guy to kind of get this organization turned around, I think he's a good guy to kind of bet on. But obviously long term, they need to find somebody else for that spot. I don't know if it's going to come internally or not. It would be very un-Phillies-like to go outside the quote-unquote Phillies family to fill that president's job, but it certainly would behoove them, I think, to at least look outside and see if there's something better than any internal candidates they might have.
That's interesting that you say that, because much like the Eagles did today, they hired a 30-year-old guy. I mean, that would be unheard of on the Phillies side. Do they have any young guys maybe coming through the pipeline that you'd say, hey, 2 or 3 years down the road, I could see this guy taking over as the team president?
Well, a couple of guys that they have. I mean, one name that comes to mind immediately is Dave Buck. He's a senior vice president. He's the guy that put together the $2.5 billion plus deal with Comcast. So he's a guy, I think, that when you talk to people inside the organization, they go, well, Dave Buck could probably get a shot at being team president. Certainly he's on the younger side of things. And then but other than that, there's a couple other guys. John Nicholas is the senior vice president with the Phillies. He might be a possibility. Mike Stiles is kind of running the business side of the Phillies right now, but I don't know how interested he would be in that position. So they have a couple guys inside, but John Middleton, one of the Phillies' owners, is certainly a lot more involved with the team these days than he ever has been in the past. And so maybe he will exercise some of his influence and say, hey, you know what, let's not only look at the inside guys, but here's a couple outside guys I want to take a look at.
Todd Zolecki, MLB.com, looking at the Phillies offseason as they're getting ready, obviously, to go down to spring training in about 20 days. And obviously, this Jonathan Papelbon thing, is it's still out there. He's obviously still here. Will he be here in 20 days?
I think that the Phillies are very motivated to move him, and I wrote this the other day. They're still talking to the Brewers and the Blue Jays, and that doesn't mean a deal is going to get done, but there were the reports late last week that they were in serious discussions with the Brewers, and then all of a sudden in the next couple of days you read a lot of reports that says, it's probably not going to happen. But they're still talking, so it's not as dead as I think as it had been reported. And I say it because, again, they're still talking. If the deal was dead and the Brewers or the Blue Jays said, you know what, we just can't, we're so far off, let's just go in a different direction, okay, then I would agree. But the fact that they are still talking means that they feel that they can somehow get to the middle and reach an agreement, that they're not totally wasting each other's times. So I think there is a decent chance that Papelbon gets traded before camp opens. I think that's what he wants. I think that's what the Phillies want, and I think that's what the Brewers want. They need a closer.
What are some of the holdups here? Obviously, he's making $13 million, but what are if you're a Phillies fan too, and you're trading Papelbon, who, let's be honest, had a pretty good year last year, are you anticipating getting something in return, or is this just get him out of our hands and let's cut our losses?
No, I don't think this is not a salary dumping move. Certainly they want to save some salary by trading because they're not going to eat the entire contract, but they're not. This is not a team that needs to go, all right, and we need to shed all of our payroll right now, or just move some players just to move some players, and we just want to get rid of them just to get rid of them. So I think they're willing to eat some money, not all of it. But I also think that they go, we're not just going to give them away. We're not desperate just to get rid of guys. So they want to get something of value in return because, and I know a lot of people say, like, we got to make Ken Giles a closer. Like, right now he has to be the closer. It's ridiculous if he's not. It's not going to cripple Ken Giles' development to be the setup guy for the first 3 months of the season if they can trade Papelbon in July, for example. So I think the Phillies are looking at it that way. Like, we're not just going to give this guy away, just like they're not going to give away Cole Hamels. Now, I think they would give away Ryan Howard just to save some money. But, those two guys, Hamels and Papelbon, are two guys that they want to get something of value in return.
Now, Howard, obviously, you mentioned they would probably just cut ties with him. If somebody wanted him, they would give him to him. But are they prepared to enter camp with him if nobody wants him, or do you think at the last minute they could say, you know what, we tried, we couldn't get anything done, we're going to have to cut him?
No, I don't think they're going to release him. I don't think they're going to eat $60 million, and I say that because they don't have Ryan Howard 2.0 in the minor leagues. Now, Darren Ruff is a guy that could play a little bit more at first base, and Maikel Franco could play some at first base. But they don't have that can't-miss prospect at first base that is just like waiting in the wings, like, please give me a shot to play first base. So I don't think they're going to eat $60 million. Let me put it this way. They're not going to eat $60 million to give Darren Ruff 200 more at-bats this year. I just don't think that they view him in that way. So they're going to – what I can see them doing is saying, all right, well, we can't find anybody for him. We're going to play him early this season. Maybe now he's got a clearer head. The family issues have been resolved. The court settlements have been taken care of. Maybe he's got a clearer head. Maybe he comes out and produces. And then if he produces, then maybe we can trade him in July, or maybe we can trade him at the end of next season. But I don't see them just eating money and just saying, we'll just eat $60 million, walk away.
Todd Zolecki, MLB.com, talking some Phillies here as they get ready in 20 days. Franco, you mentioned there's some people that I guess are interested, or the fans are intrigued to see him play, but it sounds like the Phillies want to start him down in the minors. Is that where you think he'll start?
I do think that he will start down there. I think they want to get another look at Cody Ashe. And, if you start Maikel Franco in the minor leagues, it delays his free agency down the road, and it delays his salary arbitration down the road. And if they're not trying to win right now, I think they're looking at it partly that way, but I think they want to give Cody Ashe a good, honest look at third base to start the season, give him some regular at-bats. Now, they could start both of those guys could start the season with the team, but I think they want to have Maikel Franco get everyday at-bats and continue his development. And the guy's still very, very young, so it's not like this guy's 26 years old and has been in the minor leagues for 8 years. He's like 21 years old. They do love him a lot. They think he's going to hit. They think he's going to be productive, but I don't think they're in a position where they're like, we've got to rush this guy up and get him going right now because he's the missing piece. Like, again, they're not trying to win this year, or they don't expect to contend, I should say. So how they handle guys might be different than how you might normally handle them in other seasons.
Obviously this team had a plan to try to get younger and start to peel some things off. Do you think, Todd, that they've done a good job this offseason? If this is step one of the plan, did you like the first year of what they tried to do?
It's a start. It's certainly a start. They've traded Jimmy Rollins, Marlon Byrd, and Antonio Bastardo. They got 4 minor league pitchers. Not bad. Certainly, it's not going to turn around an organization and get the Phillies. They're not going to win 95 games next year or the year after that because these 4 minor league pitchers they got. But I like the fact that The guys that he got back seem to be high-quality guys. Again, they're just prospects, so none of them could pan out. All four of them could pan out. It's impossible to say right now. But I like the fact that they finally acknowledged, at least, that it's not happening. This team is not good enough to win as it is, so you got to go in another direction. So I like the fact that they finally came to grips with it, and they're finally moving in that direction of rebuilding and getting rid of some of these older veterans. I think that they still want to trade Hamels. They obviously want to trade Papelbon. They obviously want to trade Ryan Howard. If Cliff Lee is healthy to start the season, I would expect him to be gone by July 31st. So there's a lot of things they can do to kind of jumpstart this process and get them going. But I like the fact that they're finally going. They're not trying to kid themselves anymore.
Right. I'll leave you with this one, Todd. As Ryan Sandberg said last week, there wasn't very good communication between him and the players, and that I don't know that some of the veteran players maybe didn't do a great job of being leaders to the younger guys. Do you think Sandberg then is the right guy to work with younger players? Do you like him in that role?
I think it'll be easier for him. I for whatever reason, I thought there was some reluctance on his part to deal with the veterans in the clubhouse, and you wouldn't think that would be the case, but it was the case, and he basically acknowledged that he didn't do a very good job communicating with his players last year. I think he'll find the road easier with younger players without, $150 million in their bank account or $75 million in the bank account and all-star appearances and World Series rings. I think he'll find the road smoother with dealing with the Cody Asche, a Maikel Franco, a Justin DeFreitas, than a Jonathan Papelbon, a Marlon Byrd, and a Jimmy Rollins. So and an A.J. Burnett. Those guys are all gone. So, but one thing is clear. I think he definitely needs to step up and do a better job communicating with his players. It was not a good situation last year at times. You saw that he had run-ins with Jimmy Rollins and Ryan Howard, and he heard other players make comments during the season, A.J. Burnett. So that's something that definitely needs to improve because he's definitely, with the uncertainty with Ruben's situation, his contract is up after this year. New GM, if there's a new GM, then there's probably going to be a new manager. So he really needs to kind of improve at his own job.
That's a tough spot to be in with this roster, too. We'll see.
Yeah.
Todd Zolecki, MLB.com. He's at Todd Zolecki on Twitter. 20 days until you guys are going to enjoy the weather for at least a month and a half, right? It's a journey down there for you guys, man. All right, bud. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, it is. Thanks, Mike.